Bangladesh had to reissue 8 million national IDs due to fraudulent duplicates. Vietnam found 30,000 ghost students in their school subsidy program. What's the common thread here? Make me understand the issues about security here.
Well, the common thing is the ease of duplicating an identity, faking it.
Pieter Gous, I recognize your face. Joke. Facial recognition. Tell me about your journey. How did you end up in this?
Jacques, it's been an interesting one getting to the point where we are now.
Okay, so now if I want to steal the Declaration of Independence, you know, most people's frame of reference with facial recognition are these science movies. Can I cut somebody's thumb off and put it there? I mean, that's fingerprint scanning.
Well, luckily no one's tried it before, but we're pretty confident in the technology to say if we're stating that we're looking at liveness, we do check that, and we check for blood flow in the fingerprints to determine if it's a live fingerprint.
Pieter Gous, I recognize your face. Joke. Facial recognition. Tell me about your journey. How did you end up in this?
Jacques, it's been an interesting one getting to the point where we are now. So originally 23 years back, I was also involved in access control, working with one of the big players in the market. And as life happens, we needed to make a decision, and we moved over into our own company, servicing clients from embassies, government entities, residential estates, even private clients, homeowners. And through that, we built up the skills and the expertise and got used to what people want, how they want it. And we evolved the company over 23 years into where we are now, with the advantage that we understand where an installer comes from when they're looking at products. So our whole journey was based on the experience we got, pushing it over to our installers, our resellers, our sub-distributors, to try and help the market get to a point where they can be easy with a product. We've tried getting good products in before. We've worked with good products, but ultimately at the end of the day, it needs to be easy, quick, and simple to install and manage. And because we know the frustrations, we develop together with our brands that we work with to get products that do exactly that.
Aratec, tell me about the brand. It's one of the few biometrics manufacturers building hardware specifically for the Africa infrastructure. Tell me about it.
So Aratec is a Chinese company, obviously. They specialize in identity management. So they're not a singular platform solution provider or hardware manufacturer. They cater for a wide market, from government entities where it's ID management, KYC for banking, and then obviously facial recognition, identity management for residential estates, corporate parks, business environments, just to have more security on there. And the brand's got 20 years experience in that. And we work closely with them to develop, enhance, and better the product for the South African and African markets, because we are unique.
So I'm looking at my notes here. Last year, a residential estate in Gauteng reported 12 cloned access cards in 1 month. Bangladesh had to reissue 8 million national IDs due to fraudulent duplicates. Vietnam found 30,000 ghost students in their school subsidy program. What's the common thread here? Make me understand the issues about security here.
Well, the common thing is the ease of duplicating an identity, faking it, using old legacy technologies and trying to cover your bases when it comes to a security application. I mean, you're using the technology on a daily basis. If you're using a banking app, you're using facial recognition to get into your banking app. Why should it be any different to that? That's the most unique way to do identity management and matching securely. The fact that Bangladesh had the issue with the ID management is a clear indication of how easy it is to duplicate someone's identity. And there's a big push in the market to get that more strict. One of the things is POPI. You don't want your ID or your details available out there in the market. How do we get rid of that? We enforce stricter protocols. And that is where the product is unique because it's got a lot of international certifications to address that issue.
I'm asking on behalf of a friend.
Okay.
How unique are faces? If two twins come at the gate here at Ibotsi, will it scan him in? Enlighten me here.
We've had the instance and we've been through the process, and we can safely say that we can identify them as unique persons at the end of the day. Even if they look identical to the human eye, the algorithm behind the system is intelligent enough to get those small changes and differences and pick up on it.
Okay, wow. So the problem isn't just fraud, it's durability, speed, and liveliness in real world conditions. And that's where most pilots die in the field and in the lab. Elaborate on that.
So one of the biggest things out there, and it's been public for a while already, is the fact that people are getting in with fake profiles. Liveness detection is one of the deterrents. You're looking to see if it's an actual living, breathing person at the end, gaining access or asking to get into a premises, whatever it may be. So we need to enforce that. And to get that, our algorithm, again, we've got 3 layers in there where we implement dual camera technology to make sure that it's a living, breathing person there. Even with the fingerprint side, we're looking at live fingerprints. So you can't just put anything down there and hope it's going to open for you or try your luck with it. We're looking to see if it's a real person.
Okay, so now if I want to steal the Declaration of Independence, most people's frame of reference with facial recognition are these science movies. Can I cut somebody's thumb off and put it there? I mean, that's fingerprint scanning.
Well, luckily no one's tried it before, but we're pretty confident in the technology to say if we're stating that we're looking at liveness, we do check that, and we check for blood flow in the fingerprints to determine if it's a live fingerprint. And the same with your face. You can't have half a dead pose at the entry point and think you can get in. You need to show liveness.
So let's talk gates and parameters. Residential estates like the one we're in now, Ibotsi Country Estate, one of your pilot sites, mines, university campuses, you need speed and weatherproofing. Walk me through your outdoor play.
Okay. So the unique products for that would be our BA8300, and then its smaller brother, the BA5300, which is a 5-inch unit. Technology-wise, exactly the same, both IP65 rated for outdoor environments. Obviously, it's not submersion proof, so you can't throw it in the dam and think it's going to work. There are a few technologies that will do that, but water, dust, harsh environments, we're happy to play in that environment, and it works well.
And for smaller sites and secondary gates?
Well, smaller sites, we'll still go with our flagship product, which is the BA8300, because of the amount of modularities in there. So we're looking at face, fingerprint, you've got a QR code functionality, you can have card functionality. And the nice thing with that is you can have a combination of that. So you can enforce the rule differently to different people, especially in a strict environment. And where it's unmanned gates inside, once the person has entered the main gate and approved, they can go wherever they're allowed to go based on the rule set within the software.
So if I'm running a 1,500 unit residential estate, I put up a BA 8300 on main boom gates and a 5300 on the pedestrian turnstile. Same security posture, different throughput?
Exactly the same functionality. In terms of throughput, exactly the same. The only thing we did was shrink the device slightly. So the reason for that is on a building, you don't want a big bulky device. You want something sleek, slim, and aesthetically pleasing. Corporate environments look for things like that. So we've launched the 5300 device, the 5-inch, to cater specifically for that. For harsher, more functionality-driven applications, it again will go back to our 8-inch device.
National ID, voter registration, KYC, SIM registration. This is where programs live or die on sensor size and liveliness, or liveness as you guys call it. Bangladesh National ID uses a FAP60 sensor to cut ghost enrollments. Why FAP60 and ghost enrollment? Explain.
So FAP60 is a more accurate protocol to use for enrollment of fingers. Again, the application specific environment is where you want good, clear fingerprints. So the sensor does exactly that. It gives you a good, clear print of that fingerprint enrolled. One of the unique environments that we are looking at as well is we are still using paper-based fingerprints in South Africa. So if you go to a police station and you have to do fingerprints for whether it's a affidavit or if you're doing a firearm registration, whatever the case may be, they're still stuck in the old way of doing it. But with a product like our A900, which is a 442 device, meaning it takes your four main fingers and your two thumbs, but you also have the opportunity to roll your fingers, typical in what you'll do in a fingerprint environment at the police station. So we cater for those type of things.
So for mobile agents, telecom, SIM registration, social grant payouts, roadside KYC, what solutions do you have there?
So there we've got the Marshall devices. They are uniquely positioned with the technology inside of them. Already you've got NFC capability, you've got smart card reading, you've got facial verification functionality and fingerprint. So with that single device, you can roll it out into pretty much any mobile type of application. And then we also have the functionality of a 2D barcode scanner and QR reader again, so that you can read driver's licenses, ID documents, and you have the functionality to then extract the information for the person that you are stopping in the case of a traffic stop. They can easily pull up the data, confirm, and with a bit of development, they can see if there's outstanding fines, if the person's wanted, if there's a warrant of arrest out there. So typical government applications. It also fits well into residential communities with the same type of workflow where visitors are scanned in and you need to capture that data to know who's entering your premises. I mean, security estates are there for a reason. You don't stay in a security estate because it's a nice environment. You're buying into the idea of a secure environment where access is controlled. So how do we do that? We scan in visitors.
This case study from Vietnam fascinates me. Biometrics to clean 30,000 ghost students from payroll. The world's full of these ghost people. Tell me about that.
So it's easy. They're using a fake identity, adding a picture to it that they get wherever. It can be from the internet. They're creating a profile of someone that doesn't exist. And without the liveness again, verifying a live person on the other side, you can add anyone to a database. I mean, our own local systems in South Africa have shown that they sneak in people that don't exist, someone that's passed away years back already. How do you verify that? You need a live person on the other side, and to do that again, implement the right technologies.
So tell me about the criminal's mindset here, not to teach criminals, but why would you want to fake a student? What do you want to do?
Well, they're getting the money benefit at the end of the day. We had a discussion with a client a while back where they want to implement the system for the trainee programs run by government. The biggest point of failure for them is the fact that there's a lot of human intervention. Automating the process using facial recognition, and as a secondary, you can use a fingerprint to verify that it's the actual guy coming for his training, and he gets a fee at the end of the training course because it's skills development. The problem is they sneak in these fake guys, get the money, and then the coffers are empty. They can't actually do skills development because they're catering for ghosts.
Wow. So if I'm a school group, I put in an A900 at admin for enrollment, a BD8500 at each gate for daily roll call with liveness, no more buddy signing, no more ghost subsidies.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, get it? So hotels, bed and breakfast, casinos, that whole hospitality industry, what's the play there?
So again, because we are a modular system, we're uniquely positioned to offer that solution. Typically, you'd have at the reception side a BD8500, which is a terminal device. They can quickly enroll a person on there with their face fingerprint. They can issue cards, and they can then be distributed into the access control environment within those type of setups. So if you've got the smaller 5-inch device at the hotel lobby doors to restrict access, you can get where. If the person coming to visit or stays at the hotel isn't allowed to a specific floor, they won't gain access.
Time is money, right? I'm a CIO. I want to get my building hooked up with facial recognition or one of your systems. What's that time period? Because everybody's allergic to these long pilots, right?
So ideally, pilots should not run more than 2 weeks. If in 2 weeks the system hasn't proven itself and convinced you as a CIO that it's the right fit, it won't be in a month. Ideally, with throughput, you get that. We're running people through in about half a second. And everything depends with facial recognition on quality of enrollment. You need good quality data. If you don't have good quality data, the old saying is rubbish in, rubbish out. You start getting issues. So with a pilot thing, ideally, you'd want to have as many people rolled out onto the system. That's the only way you can effectively test it and make sure that it's the right fit for you.
Tell me about pre-COVID. It feels to me personally like the facial recognition wasn't the thing until COVID came, and then everything was geared towards that. I think there's an obvious answer, but elaborate a little bit about how the industry's changed after the pandemic.
Yeah, so typical of human nature, if there's a germ, you don't want to get it. How do you not get it? You don't touch surfaces. You don't shake hands with people. That's where facial recognition came in and addressed that concern from Joe Public out there. Facial recognition was adopted very easily with the people because they still had the security aspect without having to touch anything. So some of the other products in the market launched very interesting ways of convincing people that they're now controlling this. The easiest way was no touch. And facial recognition was exactly that.
Securex is around the corner at Gallagher Estate. Asterion, official partners and distributors of Aerotech is going to be there. What can installers and service providers expect from your stand this year?
So I think the most important is for them to interact with the devices, see how they work, how they function. We'll have an array of the products available there. Obviously, the BA8300, the 5-inch brother will be there. We'll have our terminal device there. The Marshall 5 will be there, and then we'll have some surprises as well. You'll have to be there to see what we've got for you there.
So let's talk a little bit about business and marketing. So shows are a great way to introduce product, right? It's touch, feel, face-to-face in a world where also post-pandemic where, the Zoom calls and the things are the sort of the 80% of meetings nowadays. What's your take on showing at an expo like that?
Well, going to Securex, it took us 3 years to get there, and with good reason. We didn't want to push out a product into the market before getting a foundation. And 3 years past now, we're sitting with a platform where we want to show the South African market what we've got, what we've proven. And that's what most of the brands out there do, is we need to first show people on ground level what we're capable of. Then we'll open up to the rest of the market and tell them, here's what we are, this is what we can do, come and see it, come and experience it, hands on. That's Securex.
And who do you guys want to meet at the show particularly? Who's your ideal customer profile that you want to talk to? Obviously, you want to get your product out in the market. So who must come and see you?
So typical installers, resellers are welcome to come and can visit us. Guys looking to sub-distribute, we're open for that. And then integration partners, companies that have a software solution, looking for a hardware platform. Those are the people that we're looking at.
We're at Ibotsi Country Club. What is the? This is one of your sites. What is the implementation? What does the structure in the system look like here, and how have they benefited from your products?
So let me just correct that quickly. So they're not directly outlined. They
Okay,
work with our resellers,
of course.
which is BSS for the specific site. And the rollout was an interesting one. They had a legacy technology installed here. They were experiencing a lot of issues, false recognitions, delays getting in, ghost transactions, and they were looking for a solution. We offered the solution through some of our integration partners to them, and they've implemented it several months back already. And it seems like it's been all smiles looking at some of the transactions going through, because they are now easily getting through the gates, not having to wait and park to get through. So typical on a state like Ibotsi, they would scan visitors in with a mobile device, process the visitor's details. They will then get a notification via SMS or WhatsApp to the resident that they're visiting to announce to them that they've entered the premises. They should expect them. For normal day-to-day on the resident side, they're using facial recognition to get in through that.
I was at the gate this morning. It was fascinating how quickly it sees your face. Like your face is literally in the corner, and it obviously rejected me. But it's really quick. And what would you say is the difference for somebody living in an estate? The benefits of having facial recognition rather than the other traditional methods.
So typical with the old traditional methods, obviously cards, they're easy to hand out. There's no control over it. I can give you a card and you can have free access anywhere. Removing the cards out of the equation, going to facial recognition, it's uniquely you. We know it's you coming through the gate. So we're trying to steer clear of technologies like fingerprints for these environments, because again, there are too many variables at play. Fingerprints, if you want to do that, you need to really invest serious funds into deploying something that's accurate and reliable. I mean, typical with fingerprints, people like to work in their gardens. What happens with that? It's abrasive to your fingerprints. Those are the people that struggle to get through the gate. For a resident, you don't want to sit in a queue with someone struggling to get their finger read in all 600 ways that they can present it. With a face, it's sub 1 second and they're through the gate. So queues are reduced, and especially with domestics, gardeners, those type of things, they get through the turnstiles quite easily instead of having to be manually processed. And again, these are the type of people that struggle with fingerprints.
Peter, you can't have a podcast without talking about AI, right? The future of technology within the space, in your space. Make some predictions for us. Hopefully, you'll be dead by then, but how is facial recognition going to change? How is AI, big data? I think back in the day, everybody spoke about big data. Now, it makes so much more sense to me that AI on top of big data is actually the unlocking feature here. But how do you see that world and cybersecurity and all of those things playing out? What are the juicy things that you can tell us?
Well, there's not much in the form of juicy things because it's public knowledge before it becomes implemented. Everyone's playing with it. It's open to everyone. The interesting thing that you're bringing it up is that we do apply AI in our devices. In our algorithms, we have AI because we need the intelligence and the speed of AI to do matching. And it's literally hundreds of checkpoints on a single face. You see sub 1 second entry. What happens at the back is the AI is running multiple scenarios to see, are you matching this? So it's implemented already. I think for the future of AI, it's going to become even more disconnected to a person somewhere having to add data, manage data. It'll become autonomous. You're going to probably speak to the device and it's going to take your details, it's going to process it, take your snapshot automatically, load it onto the system. It's going to become a more streamlined solution at the end of the day. I think AI, without people realizing it, it's already there. They're already using it. It's already implemented.
So AI also knows what people's faces look like when the Springboks lost. They'll still get access.
They do, yeah. We've had some interesting questions in terms of the algorithms on the system and the facial identification, especially on news sites. Guys come in being worried that they might have had something to drink the previous day. Now the eyes aren't pretty much aligned. Are they going to get in? Yes, they can get in.
Peter, how do people get a hold of you if they are installers right now? They're seeing this, they need a new solution with great support. How can they get hold of your company?
So the easiest way is pop us an email, connect@asterion-technologies.com. They can also contact us 068-623-4303, or they're welcome to visit the website at asterion-technologies.com.
Peter, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm looking forward to seeing you at Securex, and thank you.
It's my pleasure.